Hello, hello. Thank you for joining me here. Just take a couple moments to settle into this space. You can take the next 10, 20, maybe 30 minutes to just tune in, relax, surf to the sound of my voice. If you did not catch my prior video on the solar eclipse, I recommend that to begin there, because I sometimes read online, oh, the eclipse portal was just those few days. I would say the eclipse portal begins with the eclipse new moon and then goes through the forthcoming lunar cycle. So we're just about right here. We're just a week and a half, and we're talking about a full moon in Aries, which is going to do what? It's going to illuminate the original intentions of that solar eclipse that took place 2 weeks prior. We're going to talk about that full moon today. I know a lot of folks are extremely challenged right now. A lot of, adrenal fatigue, nervous system overwhelm, sleepless nights. Yeah, right there with you. And I think it's therefore important whenever we get a chance to rest and digest, we really need to. Because I'm going to let you know, October is pretty much guaranteed to be the most intense month of 2025. So not to scare you, but get ready in the sense of we know what's to come. I mean, it has gotten very, very clear. And I'm a little surprised there aren't other people that are really putting together the big picture. I know I've got the astrology factor too, but people have no idea how far this is actually going here. Now, I've been in hypervigilance since December. I was raised as a scapegoat in a narcissistic family unit. And for someone who is raised that way, your number one fear is to go back into that. I only got out of that this last year. This is the first time, hopefully getting away from that. What I would say is that we are at a point of psychological crises. And this is reflected through Uranus's entrance into Gemini in this incredibly powerful trine to Pluto, which is why everything's so fast-paced. It's also why there's a connection between what's going on now and what was being seeded in the late 60s, 70s. That in the Pluto-Uranus that joined together that year, now we're in the first trine, which is when the rocket ship takes off. It starts to go, 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 create, manifest, make it fast, and it can potentially go too fast. So again, I hope that you're able to catch some breaths, because it's going to keep coming in waves and waves and waves and waves. You have to be super graceful for yourself. When you're feeling close to a panic attack, it's like we kind of have to have these lines in the sand while we evaluate this pendulum between the overwhelm on the nervous system and then the need to, rest and digest. Really monitor that so we can see if we're getting close to a panic attack. And then we just simply have to, okay, this is a panic attack and I don't want to have a panic attack. It is when something extremely untrue tries to convince itself as real in our mind. And what happens in a panic attack is our nervous system attacks our body. It's self-sabotage. And this is a very Virgo theme because the solar eclipse was in Virgo, very unique sign, being an earth element sign ruled by the analytical planet Mercury, which rules the nervous system and the mind. A few days ago, I was like, wow, I must be feeling the Virgo, because every smell, every sight, every sound is overwhelming. And that's the hypersensitivity that Virgo brings, sensitivity to what's going on in the world, our home, surrounding environment, in details. Now, to begin with the astrology, I want to start with Jupiter. And that is because this is, to me, the most important transit, despite it being behind the scenes, in a sense. You'll understand what I mean, because Jupiter in Cancer bestows learning emotional intelligence. And this is probably the most repeated phrase I've made in these last dozen years. This is my Jupiter return. So a dozen years ago when I began Jupiter return, I say that the zodiac sign of Cancer is the most missing and the most needed medicine on the planet at this time. And what that archetype is, everything to do with safety, everything to do with emotional intelligence. This means empathy. Now, Jupiter in Cancer is on his own planetary north node right now, as well as the planetary north node of Pluto. This is really important astrology. Lesser known by most people, but this is the astrology that makes sense of our species evolution over many thousands of years. We're seeing patriarchy all over the world because that's the world it's been in. These are the loose ends that need to be resolved so we can culminate and complete this Pisces age, which has not happened yet. You would not be seeing any of this if we were culminated, tied up those loose ends, and we're in the next yet. Perhaps we can get there soon, but as we can see, no, we got some room to grow here, learn and expand. And I'm kind of surprised to see that I'm not seeing a lot of people put together this much bigger picture that I have. It's not just the astrology, it's also like, okay, this is going to get really crazy. I mean, it's going to get involving spirituality and religion and belief systems. It's really intense. That's why I say begin with the emotional intelligence. Begin with tuning into your own inner child and use that sensitivity. Jupiter is our intuition. Use that intuitive faculty. I feel this and I feel this. And let's make all of our decisions based off of intuition these days. We can't afford to do anything less. We need the support from our higher ups. And that's how we're going to tune into it. That's where we're going to understand where we need to go, even if it doesn't logically makes sense, and we're in such a time. What can we do that logically makes sense right now? We've got some Chiron theme here going into October. Mercury is going to go opposite to Chiron on October 3rd. And this can illuminate what it is we really need to communicate with others. It can also be others giving us feedback that can be a little bit, of a heart hurt or a little bit, triggering here, but we can learn. We can learn so much. This would be the time to be one another's counselor. This would be the time to go into therapy and to seek that support. This is a catharsis through our speaking, our communicating, our story, our experience. I think we should be documenting this. This is going to be the most intense times of our lives. October, as I said, is guaranteed to be the most intense month of 2025, right? So we got that Mercury opposite to Chiron, then Mercury squares Pluto on the 8th. This is, again, intense, powerful thinking, ding, 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 things being pieced together. And, we got to round a corner here in regards to our own understanding. Again, this is a psychological crisis. Pluto is the unconscious. It's the bottom of the barrel. It's the reality where you can say you are all sorts of things. It doesn't change what you actually are, which is why we need to develop this empathy, as this is the most important discerning faculty we could use at this time. Fundamental evolutionary astrology, tuning into frequency, feeling into frequency. Everything's a frequency. Feel it. Allow those feelings of that frequency to inform you of what that is. That's where we can really start to tap into, oh, there's a majority of an iceberg beneath the water, and it looks like a tiny iceberg up here, and it's not the same creature behind the scenes or behind the surface. Now, as I said, Mars, god of war, transiting Scorpio right now. Before the discovery of Pluto, which is considered the higher octave of Mars, Scorpio was ruled by Mars. Now, Scorpio is ruled by Pluto, but Mars rules the leading edge of our desire reactions, instincts, whereas Pluto is the soul-level desires that actually manifest through co-creating with God what is our actual life experience. Okay, so Pluto is stationing 2 weeks from today, October 14th, a little more than 2 weeks. I typically feel these planets, and everyone's different, 3 weeks before they station is when it's like that a planet draws attention to itself, whatever sign it's in. It's really, this is what Pluto in the first couple degrees of Aquarius is doing. It's really introducing what this next 2 decades is going to be like of this Pluto Aquarius era. And yes, this is going to completely change absolutely everything that we ever knew. And there absolutely is a grand reset taking place. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. That's profoundly being reflected through Saturn and Neptune again are going between Aries and Pisces. This is the very beginning of the zodiac. You may have heard, I am the Alpha and Omega, Alpha, Aries, Omega, Pisces. This is the crucifixion point. And I actually published Opa magazine on the Aries point being a signature for martyrdom. We've already seen that come up this year, haven't we? Going to continue to be a theme. This is one of the most profound astrological signatures I've ever witnessed in my life. Saturn and Neptune together, right on the Aries point. 2025, the whole freaking year, and then into the first part of 2026, where it's springtime. There's going to be something's going on, and then springtime is when it pops. Now, Mars is in Scorpio these couple of months, which is why it's also so intense. It's why October is going to be likely the most intense month of the year as we get into our Scorpio season ruled by Pluto. So our full moon in Aries, just over a week from today, October 7th, 14 degrees Aries, loosely conjunct Ceres, quintile Pluto, trine to Vesta in Sagittarius. The ruler of this full moon, Mars, is simultaneously in Scorpio with Black Moon Lilith, trine to the North Node. This full moon is going to illuminate the deeper themes of the solar eclipse. This is what the full moon does. This is, again, why we pay attention to cycles. It's not just like, oh, new moon, you do your magic there and then wait for the next new moon. No, you do your magic and then you watch it grow, manifest at the full moon is when you can see it most clearly. Full moon reflects back the sun. It also creates this intensity of polarity. Again, is largely what is driving this extremism we're seeing, but we can use that to see things hyper pronounced. Are we not dealing with fundamental forces? Have you not sensed those forces? I think many of us are familiar with what these forces are. We're talking about the fundamentals of what it means to be a human, what it means to have free will. It goes really, really deep, that rabbit hole in particular. I love that this full moon is quintile Pluto in Aquarius. That can give us some creative solutions to how we're working with what can be a very intense, extreme, overwhelming experience. As I mentioned, God of War. We're going to see in the States, this gathering of 800 admirals and generals, which has never historically happened, like so many things that have never historically happened now in this nation. A lot of us are looking to that with apprehension, and I don't blame anybody. But what I will also say here is we can embrace this for ourselves. That's the usefulness of astrology. We're all looking at it. I think these guys are looking at it. And that's different. That's different. I don't think that was so much the case before. Now I think it's being implemented. All right. So this full moon also squares Jupiter loosely. It's going to illuminate these themes, like where is safety on this globe? And what do we need to do to get there? This full moon joined with Ceres is a standing up, a protecting of, a getting up on our soapbox to take a stand. We're probably going to see some fighting, some reactions. Have we not already seen the increase of that? Certainly in this country, and I know it's not just this country. I'm trying to stay up to date with what's going on in the world right now, and oh my goodness, is it difficult with the amount of stuff that's happening day by day. This is again why I mentioned the current Uranus-Pluto trine is a rocket ship of what was originally formed in the late 60s, 70s. The plan that the States is implementing has been developed for a very long time. And you see all those political people knew it already, which is why in the presidential inauguration, you saw all of the old presidents being like, oh God, the plan. But I think we can also look to that time personally. For me, and I love the original intentions of the United States of America. This is obviously where we're meant to go, even if it's a lofty goal and we haven't really quite gotten there. Like, yeah, there were problems. There was slavery while we were writing about freedom and liberty and injustice, and there was none of those while you're owning slaves. So this is a karmic repetition where we're being forced to look at our heritage, our shoes, these unresolved dramas that are beyond just dramas. They're really, really intense battles between these forces that could be going on for lifetimes and lifetimes, generation upon generation. This is going to wake up these tensions. And I think This month's going to wake up the sleeping giant of America. That's been the hardest thing for me. It's how sleepy America is. I'm on this stuff learning all day, every day for you all, so I can help you all when I'm speaking to you. I don't recommend ignoring as a coping mechanism. And I don't recommend being on your phone 24 hours a day. Easier said than done, my God. It's like, we feel a need to be on it, which is the hypervigilance. So let's just be aware that hypervigilance comes from prior traumas. And this is a reflection of the past. The prior solar eclipse was a south nodal eclipse, which means we are feeling the past. It's real, therefore, because it's real to our soul. It's real, therefore, because these past experiences shaped us into being who we are, and we're reflecting and remembering on just those themes. Hopefully we can get back to the high octave Virgo, which is going to be what roles that honors our gifts, because Virgo is all about refining our talents and how it's really helpful and uplifting others in a useful, measurable way. That's what we all want to find these days. And if we got to break down stuff that's not working, that's going to be happening here. We've got to be a little bit nimble in a certain way. And that's, again, where this full moon with Aries is actually a way to nurture others. It's through this defending, protecting, and through this exemplary leadership or initiating, again, sleeping giant finally waking up here, leading us into how we can create more of this missing medicine of empathy, safety, emotional intelligence. I am in hypervigilance because my Jupiter is the exact degree of Chiron. And so everything during my Jupiter return is a reflection of my childhood and the themes I've lived again and again and again and again. This is important stuff. It's to lead us into what's missing. It's the feminine. The feminine, the feminine, the feminine, the feminine. It's why we can't skip and jump ahead. I know a lot of people want this comet to be a UFO coming to save us here at the end of October. They're guessing early November. And so let me talk about that too, because I don't know, that I hope in a good way, right? But regardless, comets of this nature are extremely important to astrologers. Astrologers have always seen comets, and this is the largest in our recorded history, passing by the Earth end of October, early November. That is a signal for sure. And what it's typically a signal of is age shift. You know, you're not in the same reality. You're not in the same dimension anymore. So it doesn't even have to be a UFO. The astrologer is going to let you know that, because I study these spinning rocks, and they are forces, there's personalities, they're gods. You know, we're working with them. And we evolve through them and them through us. That's the as below, so above, which is the actual order in the Hermes Trismegistus poem. As below, so above. As above, so below. Because would we really want to put below as last, like it's lesser than? Might be a little harsh on the feminine path. Have you heard what people say about left-hand paths, and left hand just equals Satan or the devil? Left, feminine. Right, masculine. It's that simple. I remember my friend telling me she grew up in churches where they weren't allowed to use their left hand. They were also not allowed to dance or make music, because that was considered the work of the devil. Whew. Let's not go back to those definitions, please. Let's step out of the two-dimensional, which we're definitely going to see, because when Uranus pops back into Gemini, springtime, April 2026, we're going to come back into this exploring theme of polar opposites, that through this extremism, we can see the variance, and through that variance, this is how we see forms more defined. It's like if the border between form and formlessness is well defined, if there is a huge light, there's a huge shadow, right? That's what we're clearly seeing here. Big light, big shadow on the planet at the same time, as it has always been. But boy, the pendulum does swing. I mean, I'm not going to go into the whole of esoteric myth cross-culturally, but we've always known these things. We've always known these things. So this Pluto station direct October, it's going to be different. This is going to be an upheaval in a way we've never experienced it before. And I think we need to be open to that because of the amount of doom that we can all be reflecting on with this prior solar eclipse on the South Node, which brings up reflections on the past, necessarily. That's why we shouldn't avoid these. We should look at these things, get triggered, have those emotions come up, and then be the detective to our own soul. And it doesn't end there either, because as I'm saying, this is going to come full circle back to where the moon's nodes are transiting right now, which you can look at any period of time. Where the moon's nodes are transiting during that period is the evolutionary intentions for the entire species at this time. So in Virgo, Pisces, polarity, this has everything to do, again, with finding our particular service, Virgo. There'll be a Venus South Node conjunction on October 3rd as well. We can really sense into that. Venus South Node in Virgo, we want to be very devoted. Those old devoted exes may come back and resurface, but we're looking at this role identification that we don't want to be too limited to, which can happen with a Venus South Node. Like I have to stay devoted to an unhealthy relationship or an abusive relationship or a toxic relationship. No, we need to get into that Pisces, which may lead us somewhere we don't even know where we're going, but we don't want to carve ourselves a form that's too defined to the point of losing ourself or our own creativity or our own inspiration, where it's just like, yeah, I'm a librarian, so that's it. I'm a librarian. My life is I go to the library and I organize and read books. And it's like, I'm sure that's a great skill set of yours. I'm sure that's good. I'm glad it pays the bills, but you know what? There's probably more. There may have been some things left on the back burner here. So this Pisces is going to open us up through like the Fool falling off of a cliff. It's like a trust fall backwards into the lazy man's river that when we trust fall backwards into can carry us gracefully. Does that mean while we're going through these big waves of digestion, reflecting on these probably past life traumas, it's not necessarily painless, but through the surrendering combined with the feeling, not a self-masochistic, like I got to beat myself up by really feeling this emotion and pound it into my face. No, it's that instead of avoiding the emotion, we bring observation there. And, it's usually important with this type of polar alchemy to kind of focus on the pain and then have a part of your reality, whether it be through somatic therapy, like incense or, whatever it may be, take a nice hot bath. Simultaneously, you can come back to the present moment, the feeling of that water, the smell of the incense, and it relaxes our nervous system. That's the Taurus and the integration, the settling down before we get back into the Scorpio tumbler, which is what I'm going to be talking about at the end of October as well. My goodness, can't forget that. I am going to be teaching on Jeffrey Green's legacy planet, Pluto. And it's going to be a really, really cool talk because it's all about the highest octave of Pluto, which is when the soul becomes a pure source of inspiration. And what that means archetypally and how we can really begin to embrace some of these really profound, deeper themes. Because again, spirituality, moon's nodes in Virgo, Pisces. What is the age we're culminating? Pisces age. Sub-age Virgo. The sub-age of Virgo is when humans began to feel really guilty because the priestly class wanted to keep the layman down through self-identifying as an unconditional sinner. Therefore, I need to cat o' nine tails myself, the way the flagellants did, which is just purely masochistic. I don't think any God that created us out of the earth would want us to cause harm to ourselves or to others. So we don't have to do that, but we may feel that. And that may be what we're being asked to culminate, complete, tie the loose ends with, and then say goodbye. You're a human being. We're not perfect. We're not expected to be perfect. We should strive to be honest. I wish we lived in a world where people were not so afraid to talk about their imperfections, because obviously we live in a world that's not totally safe. There's no safe walk through life ever. That is why we should strive to be containers of the divine feminine. And when I mean containers of the divine feminine, I mean containers. We are the Holy Grail. You know what Taurus is? The circle of spirit with the cup on top. Holy Grail. the grasses, the trees, the sounds of the birds, the garden with the herbs, the flowers, the vegetables. This is how we come back to center. This is how we come back to what will survive all of this ultimately, even if the human species is just a blip for a little while. We're created out of this earth. I'm fairly certain all of our different religious beliefs come back to that one. And it is interesting. I've loved my life of exploring different religions with my Jupiter Chiron. It's extremely fascinating. It's beautiful. And we need to be wary of these things. I would, when you see things out there that are being talked about, read it, Give a quick example here. People are referring to, Revelations and Mark of the Beast because of what's happening in the UK with digital ID and all that. People have been terrified of this for decades again. This is a silly example, but the mark of the beast is not 666. The mark of the beast is put either on the hand or on the forehead, so that way you can buy and sell goods, merchants. The number of the beast is 666 because he is a man. So that's just an example here. Like, we're going to see so many of these myths being utilized. And not only these ancient myths going back 2,000 years to the beginning of the Pisces age, which is certainly why we're looking at those themes particularly, but also the myths of our culture. Like, if you want to get the updated version that's basically a blueprint for what's going on here on this planet this time, birthing this Aquarian age, I actually recommend the movie Tron. It's a PG film. And that doesn't mean that it won't be intense as you piece together the synchronicities of the stories that's being told there and how it connects back to what's going on in the planet at this time. That's because it's an archetypal story. It goes back to some Gnostic myths here. And the Gnostic myths were really written to predict the forthcoming age at the end of the Pisces age. Big stuff. We're going to see the largest comet in recorded history, end of October, beginning of November. Regardless of whatever that is, it's going to influence us. This is an intergalactic, massive object coming from the center of our galaxy in the zodiac sign of Sagittarius. As far as I understand, those are where the good aliens come from. So I know that many of us get swept up into these ideas too. So let's be open-minded, because as I'm letting you know, these types of signals in the heavens certainly doesn't mean it's just a rock floating past. These are extremely rare celestial events when comets like this pass by, and going all the way back to the beginning of astrology. Astrologers have interpreted what those planets mean. I can't tell you that because I'm going to have to wait till it passes by to feel into it, which you can start now. You can meditate on any archetype, any planet, any point. So, start tuning into it. Maybe it is very extraterrestrial. You probably get a sense of that if you could turn into it. Certainly seems that way, honestly. Again, it doesn't have to be a ship. It is an intergalactic object. It is foreign. It is alien in its nature. Floating past for all this astrology reflects similarly bursting forward into a new, therefore foreign age, because the future lands before we even know what it is. You get confused when the future comes in because it's like, what's this? We don't know it's the future. It's something completely foreign. It takes a while for it to break in. Oh, this is where things are going. One more astrological transit for today, and that is Uranus. It's not till November, but I'm going to cite it anyways, that Uranus goes back into Taurus, start of November to April 2026. This is going to be the finalization of our currency upheaval. I wouldn't be surprised if we see some finalizations, some changes. It could be thoroughly revolutionary, because Uranus is the revolutionary, completing Taurus for 7 or 8 years, I think. This has been going on for quite a while, and I think we can already sense where these things are going to be. Like, it'll be interesting to see what gets printed on our money. It's going to be interesting to see if it's digital. I can't claim to know. I just highly suspect it's not going to be what it is today. Just a few more dates to give you the bigger picture perspective. Saturn's going to go back into, no, Saturn's already back in Pisces. Neptune, the ruler of Pisces, this is what I want to say, goes back into Pisces October 22nd. This is the last time in our lives we will experience Neptune in his own sign of Pisces. And it's going to be profound. This is the reset. This is the bottom of the barrel, spiritual undoing, upheaval, and it's the all in all. It's Neptune. The whole Taurian field from all the lower realms all the way to all the upper realms. And guess what? They're already here. We're like a lightning rod. We're going to learn how to actualize our own inner lightning rod, so you don't even have to be on your phone all day. We're going to, those who are evolving in spiritual consciousness, develop telepathy skills. It's already happening. Right. So that's going to be the completion of Neptune. Stations direct at the last degree of Pisces, December 10th. Goes back into Aries at the very end of this year, or I'm sorry, the very end of January next year on the 25th. And then Saturn and Neptune finally complete their cycle, where Neptune's just been hanging behind Neptune, but not completing the cycle. There's still these loose ends, loose ends, loose ends. February 20th, 2026, Saturn passes Neptune at 0 degrees Aries, the crucifixion point. This is a reset. I would suspect on every single dimension and level, because Saturn is not merely the structures of government. It's not merely what we're doing for our job. It's not merely the structure that's 3D. It's also the structure of consciousness itself. And I highly suspect there's going to be a rather revolutionary reset taking place in that realm as well. That's going to lead us back into our myths. We're going to continue to see extremism when Uranus goes back into Gemini next spring. Then there's going to be about a 7-8 year Uranus and Gemini transit, thoroughly revolutionizing our education systems, our technology, our communication. And it's just going to be at such a fast pace, it's going to be difficult to believe. So hold my glass. Better yet, be a glass, be a cup, be that holy grail. Don't feel bad, even if you're not perfect. You can also receive it. What is required is humility. That's why we see so many Yeshua Jesus quotes. Give to Caesar what is Caesar's. It's easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than a rich man to go to heaven. Blessed are the meek, they shall inherit the earth. I think it's one of the most redundant teachings is blessed are the poor. And don't get lost in what may cause a loss of soul. Could that be some of the extremism we're looking at here? Could that be part of the psychological revolution as we come out of a two-dimensional understanding of good and evil and a two-dimensional understanding of narcissism and cults, which has everything to do with the tying up of the Pisces age? Belief, cults, confusion, delusion, wanting to skip and jump and shortcut to the end without getting to the process, going through the process because we know the end is coming and we don't want to go through the process. This is going to be an unfolding, and it's going to be unfolding after unfolding after unfolding. If you could think like a flower that just keeps opening up into rainbow petal after petal after petal, and that's where we want to center our hearts. That's where we want to form our contact. That's where we want to stand up and fight, being led by our intuition, which means that we are the spiritual warriors. We are the heart warriors. It's more complex than the 2D understanding of what it is we should probably do, because we're wanting to bring in something that's completely new and different in all of the best ways. All the best ways, not setting ourselves up for another repetition of slave consciousness and prison consciousness, because you may have noticed I've been talking about this stuff for a long time. My most viewed, maybe second most viewed video is called Prison Planet that I filmed a few years ago. And if you're feeling like angry and pissed off, watch my Prison Planet, because I am super pissed in that one. And it just, yeah, this is what it's like. This is what it's like here on Earth, and I'm therefore really, really grateful to be able to connect and communicate with you. Lord, please allow me to continue to do this, because we're all in anxiety here, and we don't know what is going to be the next thing to get pulled. To have the opportunity to connect with a globe of people, to learn case by case through my readings is a huge blessing. I am only the message mailman delivery for you. That's my service. It's just passing the mail back, but it is an honor to be the mailman for you here and today. You can join my community, Rasalila community. We have a Q&A every month. The foundation of the astrology school is complete. So that means when you join the school, there's over 42 hours of everything you need to interpret a chart, from all 10 planets through all 12 signs and houses to all of the aspects. Everything is there. And it is also going to continue because we're going to get into transits next. So you have everything that you need to give an incredibly accurate astrology reading already at my school. When you join my school, you also are enrolled in the monthly Q&A. So you can ask a question once a month about your chart or about questions from the school. I'd be more than happy. In fact, I'd be extremely happy to see you all there. February 20th, 2026, Saturn passes Neptune at 0 degrees Aries, the crucifixion point. This is a reset. I would suspect on every single dimension and level, because Saturn is not merely the structures of government. It's not merely what we're doing for our job. It's not merely the structure that's 3D. It's also the structure of consciousness itself. And I highly suspect there's going to be a rather revolutionary reset taking place in that realm as well. That's going to lead us back into our myths. We're going to continue to see extremism when Uranus goes back into Gemini next spring. Then there's going to be about a 7-8 year Uranus and Gemini transit, thoroughly revolutionizing our education systems, our technology, our communication. And it's just going to be at such a fast pace, it's going to be difficult to believe. Don't feel bad, even if you're not perfect. You can also receive it. What is required is humility. That's why we see so many Yeshua Jesus quotes. Give to Caesar what is Caesar's. It's easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than a rich man to go to heaven. Blessed are the meek, they shall inherit the earth. I think it's one of the most redundant teachings is blessed are the poor. And don't get lost in what may cause a loss of soul. Could that be some of the extremism we're looking at here? Could that be part of the psychological revolution as we come out of a two-dimensional understanding of good and evil and a two-dimensional understanding of narcissism and cults, which has everything to do with the tying up of the Pisces age? Belief, cults, confusion, delusion, wanting to skip and jump and shortcut to the end without getting to the process, going through the process because we know the end is coming and we don't want to go through the process. This is going to be an unfolding, and it's going to be unfolding after unfolding after unfolding. If you could think like a flower that just keeps opening up into rainbow petal after petal after petal, and that's where we want to center our hearts. That's where we want to form our contact. That's where we want to stand up and fight, being led by our intuition, which means that we are the spiritual warriors. We are the heart warriors. It's more complex than the 2D understanding of what it is we should probably do, because we're wanting to bring in something that's completely new and different in all of the best ways. All of the best ways, not setting ourselves up for another repetition of slave consciousness. So I'm over 40 minutes here, so I'm going to close my trap here. But get ready for October, because it's going to be like that. It's going to be dense, and enjoy the celestial events. We won't be able to see it. I think we will be able to sense it. It's not necessarily going to happen all at the same time either. It's like we got to be like, there's going to be people that feel so bad, right? People beating themselves up, because there's going to be some people saying, oh my God, I got this experience. And it's like, Pisces, the most spiritual experience ever, the perfect surrender to God and soul, could also be delusion. So we have to be respectful, graceful, flexible, considerate to all others, as well as ourselves, because this is an extraordinarily trigger sensitive time. We're all getting gut punches. We're all unconsciously triggering others into the same experience. So let's be intentional again with where we're pulling out our sword and where we're having those reactions. We need to honor those reactions. Anger is never a useless thing. It's a very demonized emotion. But when it can be destructive as opposed to constructive, we want to roll it back if we're just ready to fucking attack somebody, because that's probably going to backfire. And there's probably a smarter way to go about it. So when we feel like we're just on fire and we're just, somebody said something, we start responding like in 2 instants, that can backfire. So let's just continue to get back into that Jupiter where we began today. Make a nice bath for yourself. You got to catch these little breaks where they are at as we ride the roller coaster this next month. All right. Again, it's been a true pleasure and honor. Wishing you the very best. Take care to you and all of your beloveds. Much love.